welcome everybody. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, based upon whatever time zone you are in at this point of time. My name is Rishi Kapil. I am the managing partner for Global Scale Up and a published author. My privilege again to be able to talk to these wonderful leaders. I would take the audience a bit back in time. On 26th June, there was a webinar which was conducted by the eminent leaders, the managing directors of Randstad India, Adecco Group India, Manpower Group India, and GI Group India, which discussed about helping India get back to work safely. And a promise was made that we will culminate the conversation again into developing something more structured, more practical, and more usable for organizations and individuals to return to work safely. And the moment is now. Let's agree to the fact that no matter how prepared we think we are, the last months have shown us that the pandemic can escalate the situations very, very rapidly. And it has extremely relevant and extremely real implications on how organizations work and what is happening to the economy at large. While many countries and organizations have tried to do things their way, but it was always awaited that there are some structured recommendations on how organizations can respond in the best possible manner to the pandemic, depending on their preparedness, the availability of resources, the stage of the pandemic. And for us, all these elements are very, very relevant and practical for what's happening in India. Allow me 2 minutes to introduce you to the panel of 6 brilliant, eminent, energetic leaders who are with me today. Welcome Paul Dupuis, the MD and CEO of Randstad India, a global leader with a commendable track record in hands-on business growth and organizational transformation leadership. Over 25 years of experience in multiple countries, Japan, Singapore, Hong Kong, Korea, and now India. And he's a member of the executive board for the India Staffing Federation. And he's a book author and published his very first book on leadership, the E5 movement, in June this year. Welcome, Paul. Welcome to the session. Allow me to introduce Sandeep Gulati, the Managing Director of Manpower Group Services India Private Limited, a multifaceted leader who's passionate about building winning teams in global environments. Brings with him 27 years of experience across strategic planning, mergers and acquisitions, and he joined Manpower Group from Aegis, where he headed operations for APAC, Middle East, and Africa. Sandeep, welcome again. Really a pleasure to have you. Marco Valsecchi, the CEO of Adecco Group India, and in his current role, he's responsible for growing the business in India, coupled with an extensive focus on business processes re-engineering and driving the execution of Adecco's digital growth strategy. His career spans over 20 years of multi-layered top-of-the-pyramid experiences, having worked in Italy, Netherlands, Latin America, and now in India. Marco, welcome to the discussion and the session. And I'm just taking the opportunity to introduce a new speaker before the others. Welcome, Richa, the co-founder and CEO of Your Dost, a compassionate person, very, you can evidently see the energy on her face. And she has seen a lot of people suffering emotionally right from her days when she was preparing for IIT. And there has been a tipping point in her life when her friend in IIT Gulati, took her life, unfortunately, and no one had any idea of her suffering. So Richa conceptualized and founded Your Dost. In the Hindi, it means your friend for all practical reasons. And this era of rising expectations and aspirations of people, Your Dost is an online emotional wellness platform through which you can connect with 1,000+ experts. Richa, really, really very happy to have you over here. Thank you for joining in. Marcos Segador Arrebola, welcome to the panel, Managing Director for GI Group India, a visionary with great insights about Asian business practices, holds very rich experience in international management and leading top performing teams in over 15 countries. Marcos is a telecommunications engineer and did international MBA from both Europe and Asia, a polyglot with proficiency in Spanish, Catalan, English, French, Italian, and German. And I don't know if Hindi gets added to this, being in India. He's a multi-talented leader with an aim to build high-performing teams and to ensure steadfast services to the clients. Welcome, Marcos. Really a pleasure to be talking to you again. And Rumjhum, Chatterjee. Thank you very much for joining us for this webinar today. She's the co-founder of Feedback Infra Group and the Group Managing Director. She serves as the Head Human Capital and the Chief Compliance Officer as well. She's also the chairperson of the Feedback Foundation Charitable Trust, which is focusing on rural and urban sanitation issues. I'm sorry about that. A leading practitioner of the management of human capital in the infrastructure sector. It will be very interesting to hear about that. She was recognized as one of the 20 most talented HR leaders in India by the World HRD Congress in 2013. Congratulations for that, Rumjhum. She served as the first women chairperson for CII Northern Region Council in 2016-17, and that is the largest of the 4 regions of CII, which comprises of 9 states. And currently, she's the co-chair for CII's National Committee on CSR. She serves as an independent director on the board of Blue Star Limited and Somani Ceramic Limited. And she's also a member of the governing body of Helpage India and its vice chairperson. Really very, very diversified profile. Thank you very much, Rumjhum, for joining all of us to share your thoughts and insights. And let's. Sorry.
My pleasure to be here today.
Thank you very much. So let's talk about the agenda in hand today. So with these 4 renowned organizations coming together, Randstad India, Adecco Group India, ManpowerGroup India, and GI Group India, they formed the India Alliance to help India get back to work safely, and have come together to develop this compilation of practices, which is titled Safely Back to Work Best Practices Handbook. And the moment of experience that we will have in a couple of minutes is not just of creating history, but paving the way of the future of work, which is so essential in today's world. The handbook is a research approach and guideline on how can companies ensure employee emotional well-being, psychological safety, and productivity by managing risk in a way that they can enable business sustenance as well as enhancement. This is a very, very unique initiative, and it has been partnered by NASSCOM Insights, the Organization of Pharmaceutical Producers of India, OP. Stanton Chase is the knowledge partner, and your Dost, represented by Richa, is the emotional wellness partner here. Without much ado, it is my absolute delight to hand over the conversation to Paul to talk about the handbook, its contents, and to launch it officially. Over to you, Paul. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Rishi. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. And first, let me send a warm welcome to my fellow leaders of the Alliance and to our guest panelists today. Thank you for joining. And for the more than 1,000 people who are joining us today on this webinar. Clearly, this is proof that this is such an important topic right now. Just to rewind a little bit back before what Rishi shared with you, on May 11th, the 4 leaders of the Alliance from Adecco, Manpower, GI, and Randstad gathered together with some of our leadership teams, and we formed our mission. And that was really to come together on a shared purpose, which is to help India get back to work safely. In the countries where we all operate, and that amounts to more than 40 countries across the world, every country has been facing a different challenge with COVID and at different stages of this challenge. Some have already reopened and have learned lessons along the way. And we felt we had a fantastic opportunity to leverage those learnings and bring them into India. And ultimately, we have the same goal in mind, is to help people get back to work safely, that we can move forward together as India moves forward towards returning to work. So on that note, I'm very pleased and proud to announce today that from that very first meeting on May 11th, today we officially launched this very important resource, this handbook that we're going to share with the world. And this handbook is really about the how-to. It's full of recommendations, best practices, and learnings from our combined experiences across the world. It's like open source code. No one owns it, everybody owns it. In other words, we share it with the world. This goes live on the 4 websites of the Alliance members, Adecco, Manpower, GI, and Randstad. It'll be there ready to go tomorrow. Of course, everyone on this webinar as well, you'll receive a copy, and we encourage you to share it with everyone in your own network, again, as we come together shoulder to shoulder to help India get back to work safely. Thank you, Rishi.
Thank you very much, Paul. And as I said, it is a defining moment that there is a handbook which can give step-by-step guidance on how to ensure employee emotional well-being and physical well-being, and they're being productive. And not to let you, go off the stage, it is like holding you back for a while, Paul. Let me ask you this question now that we start this conversation, that this has been quite an effort by the Alliance in India. And, it's really great that there'll be a lot of beneficiaries to it, to gather these learnings and best practices. Now, as organizations of all scales look ahead to reopening in India, what do these words safe to work mean in your opinion? It will be really interesting to know that.
It's a great question, Rishi, and thank you for asking it. So first of all, when we talk about safely back to work, the obvious first point is around the physical safety of employees. And we've already learned some really valuable lessons across the world, including here in India, about protocols that help ensure the safety of our employees. And we get right into very specifics in this handbook on the how-to. We also do that within different environments and different sectors, everything from manufacturing to a white-collar office environment. The how-to protocols that have been gathered from around the world in the countries where we operate. I should also mention the World Employment Confederation has also come on board to partner with us. McKinsey is also supporting in this initiative. And so we've got this combined knowledge from experiences around the world. So physical safety is a very important piece of this story. And we've already learned some tough lessons, not only in India, but again in other countries where we operate, where companies had the right intentions when they brought their employees back to work, but simply were not prepared. The physical environment was not prepared for a proper safe environment. So turning offices and locations into clean zones is one of the things we talk about in this handbook. The second piece of safely back to work is the emotional and mental piece. And I'm sure Richa is going to comment on this later, but what we've already discovered in India and beyond is that many people are very hesitant to come back into the workplace. While we may create a workplace, a workspace, which is safe, there's still the mental and emotional piece. And so that feeling of being safe, coming back to work, and also coming up with alternative ways of working, certainly not forcing our employees to come back to the workplace, but rethinking the way we work. And that brings up the future of work. So that's the second piece of safely at work. And the third piece, which I think is very important, and I think all of the leaders in the Alliance, we would agree on this point, we want to protect jobs. And in order to protect jobs, we need to ensure that we get it right. The first 2 points are critical. In other words, creating a safe workplace, a safe mental and emotional environment for our people to come back to work, and to do it right, because we do know, and we have learned the lessons from other countries, that perhaps reopened too early and we're not prepared. It was 2 steps forward and 3 steps back. So protecting jobs, when we talk about safely back to work, keeping our jobs safe for our employees and for our colleagues.
That's really wonderful, Paul. Any other leader would want to make any comment on their opinion on safe at work? Okay, I guess, yes, please.
I think Paul has beautifully covered. I would just like to say, work, to be honest, work is really a extension of our family. It's like a logical extension to our family, right? We spend more than half of our week hours in the. So how can we create that environment where people feel? I think, of course, like how for our family members we care about their emotions, about their physical safety, but we also care whether they feel good, right? And very similar to that, can we create a safe workplace where people also feel cared and that heard and cared and taken care of.
That's wonderful, Richa. Yes, Rumjhum, you wanted to say something?
Yes, if I could just add to what has already been said, I represent the infrastructure sector, and many of the services that we provide are essentially come under what is called the essential services. So while yes, the country went down into a lockdown mode from mid-March onwards, but from mid-April, we found that we needed to actually get our people back on many of the sites. And that was not easy. Like you rightly said, there was a lot of turmoil in people's minds and in their families about saying, is it safe for people to go back to work? So much of what we are going to be talking about today, yes, we had to be prepared, and we needed, it was something that was completely unplanned, unprepared for. So we had to navigate our way through all of this to ensure that we had a safe environment to which people could come back. Several challenges, but we'll talk about that as we go along.
Thank you, Rumjhum. And it also, brings an element of some realization at, our end to say that while people had the choice to work from where they would want to work, there were some sectors where it was business as usual. It was not it was not by force. It was the demand of the way work happened. So I think we all should really be very compassionate about those people who had to still work 24/7 in the environment of, when things were unsafe. And just to remind the audience that the report will be available tomorrow, 20th August, for download from the partner websites from all the 4 alliance partners. So please feel free to download and circulate it as much as possible. Let me take the conversation with Sandeep. And Sandeep, this question is based upon, which newspaper who's reading and which news channel one is watching, because back to work is directly connected to what happens to the economy. So there is a measure which the world at large is saying that how do we evaluate the outcomes of back to work? So if it is directly being linked to restarting the economy, then how does the business strategy and planning align with the new blended way of working, which is physical and distance or offline work environments, to ensure that the performance still commensurate the expected results? So your views and then other leaders can pitch in, can be really, really very helpful. Thank you, Sandeep.
Okay, great. Thanks, Rishi. First of all, Paul and you've said it. I think I wanted to reiterate. Proud, excited, and very happy to be part of this initiative. It's our way of giving back to the society. It's our way of thanking the industry. It's our way of trying to capture the best practices across the globe and tailor make it to the Indian environment. So it is global. Along with that, it's very local. It is pictorial, but it is very detailed. It is process flows, but it has a human side to it. So I think I'm very excited to be a part of this, and as an alliance, it's an attempt that we've made, and hopefully it pays off and it turns out to be a useful reference book or a blue book or a playbook, whatever you might call it. Just use it to your benefit. So that's my starting point. Coming back to strategy, all of us, Rishi, are back on the drawing boards. It's a very different landscape. It's absolutely changed. But trust me, I'm an eternal optimist. It's a huge opportunity for us to write history, right? And I think a lot of leaders have already started thinking in those directions. A lot of leaders have already started talking about that. A lot of leaders have been proactively in the process of deploying and testing waters on the strategy front. I will just touch upon 5 key aspects that we need to take into consideration while formulating the strategy, rewriting the strategy, redoing the strategy, whatever you might call it. First and foremost, and I know it's been talked about, is humanization of business plans. We need to start baselining our organizations from a human standpoint. You would have heard, IQ, you would have heard EQ. It's time to bring in HQ, which is a humanization quotient. We need to start understanding what the new means for our people, which means what? The emotional well-being, the physical well-being, the way the complete organization structures its deliverables around the people, the performance management systems. I think all of them need to be revisited. And the fundamentals of that need to be around people. It used to be a given, while planning for business, we never used to think, okay, how many of our people are going to come to work? Is that going to be at a premium, right? How many of us will be able to travel? So we need to understand that it's not a level playing field anymore, right? It was 400 people, let's say an organization size of 400. It's 400 people coming into one office. So at least the start point for them is the same. Now it's 400 different start points. It's 400 different organizations. It's 400 different musicians which need to be orchestrated in a way that you get the right rhythm. So I think that's one very important aspect that needs to be taken into consideration, right? Second is the shelf life of business plans is not going to be in years. At least for the next 4 to 5 years, we are going to be revisiting business plans, if not weekly, if not monthly, we'll be doing it quarterly. So there is no running away, or we should not be, feeling bad about revisiting these business plans, because the whole landscape is changing. There are too many variables involved. So we got to have a nimble, we got to have a flexible, and we got to have a adaptable business plan in place. Third thing, which I really want to stress upon, while doing these business plans, we will have to do a lot of unlearning. There's a lot of things that were given and we need to give up on them, right? So we need to unlearn. So we need to be ready to unlearn and learn again. So that's one more very important facet of what needs to be taken into consideration in this new scheme of things. Our business plans will no more be activity based. They will all be outcome based. It's a huge transformation, guys. It's easier said than done. You will have to give up that activity based control, or we as leaders will have to give up the activity based control. That's where the ownership at a team level, when you start engaging from an outcome based standpoint, the ownership really shifts from you to the organization that's delivering, right? So that's where you need to create an ecosystem around your people to be able to set up for success, to be able to deliver, to have performance management systems which help them deliver. So I think that's another very important facet. And the last but not the least is need for speed. You've heard this, right? It's a video game, but it's not in this context. I'm not referring to that game, but need for speed is going to be critical out here, which means speed of decision making, speed of execution, speed of accepting failures. It's very important. You got to accept, you got to take it on the chin and move forward. So I think these are some of the key aspects which we need to take into consideration when we embark on this journey of rewriting our so-called business plans. And obviously then this dovetails into the 3 dimensions of business planning, right? All these key facets will dovetail into the 3 key dimensions of business planning, which are who we are, if you want to, and that's value, that's culture. You might stay the way in terms of who we are, you might change it. You might want to bring about a lot of cultural shift. So the who we are dimension needs to be answered. How do we operate? That's another critical aspect. The complete, there's a paradigm shift in the way we are going to be operating. The platforms are going to change, the ways of engagement are going to change, our interactions are going to change, and we need to be cognizant of that fact. And how do we grow? It's a very different conversation from a growth standpoint than what it was about 2 quarters ago. So that's my, in the limited time that I had, that's my opinion, that's my view. But I'm sure that's going to be common, and it's going to be cutting across industries and organizations. It's a good starting point. We are at the cusp of, writing history. So I think we have a great opportunity at our disposal. We can make the best of it.
Wonderful, Sandeep. Thank you very much for such a structured thought in terms of the whole business plan stuff. Couple of things which I heard also include that it will no longer be a lot of top down. I believe every individual employee will have the right to say in what environment can he or she be most productive. So rather than assuming that, somebody sitting next to the coffee machine will always be able to spend more time, will no longer be the norm. So it is the right to life, which will let every employee, let the employers know that I will be most productive in this environment. And then the employers can facilitate that. And I liked your analogy about the symphony. Now there are 400 individuals trying to create music together. And I think design thinking and empathy and entrepreneurial mindset is now going to be a reality. They are no more going to be lost as words, because risk and initiative is what
they are must-haves now. Yeah, they're must-haves. You're absolutely right.
Wonderful thoughts. Thank you very much. Anybody else would like to pitch in?
Rishi, here, Marcos. One thought that it came to my mind when I heard Sandeep is about when he was talking about performance. One additional aspect, especially for the people working at home, one additional aspect that we realize with our clients and even with ourselves is that we are moving from relation-based metrics, from managers looking at the people and seeing, on the office how they develop, at what time they arrive in the morning, what time they leave in the evening, this kind of intangibles, to really database metrics. These database metrics should be communicated properly to the team, but most importantly, it should be a base, and for me this is the most important transformation. It's a subtle transformation, but most important, it should be a base of trust into their teams. I don't know what my team, and I know you all in the audience, you don't know when the people is working at home, you don't know what time they log in the computer. You have some meetings, but you don't know what time they log in, what they do during the day. You have to trust the teams. Some organizations are very advanced in this trust, but others, we know that they were not. And as Rumjhum said in the introduction, for many, this COVID was a sudden change. And I think for many organizations, this increase in trust on the teams and this data-centric, objective based metrics was a huge transformation that happened in just few weeks or months. So I think in terms of performance and how we deliver performance and how we measure performance, that was a big impact, especially, of course, for the companies with more access to work from home.
Wonderful, Marcos. I think technology is now playing the role it had to play, and it will keep on evolving. But you're absolutely right. So trust becomes the fundamental or the fulcrum of everything what happens beyond. So thank you very much, Marco. This is something which I wanted to discuss with you, and let's take it ahead. Now coronavirus has highlighted, not just undermined, the value of the office. So it's not just a TV serial called The Office. It is about the entire redefining and reviewing what the word office and what the whole ecosystems looks like. So more crucially, what role do you think the office will play in the post-pandemic era when it comes to physical workspaces? So what is it that you believe is the role which the physical workspaces will play in the post-pandemic era? If you can talk about it. It's already in the report which we are asking people to download on the 20th of August. But your thoughts and other panel thoughts would be very, very relevant on that. Over to you, Marco.
Yeah. Thanks, Rishi. If I go along with the interesting things that have been said until now, I think agility will play an immense role. So the acceleration we are experiencing in terms of going towards the digital space has been unprecedented, and it's also unprecedented the way we all reacted. I was extremely surprised to see how everybody reacted extremely well. So I think agility also in strategic planning, and what we were saying a moment ago, is going to play a very important role. So in terms of the office, I think I wouldn't discount the office. I think it's a trend that started more or less 10 years ago, and then accelerated through time, of people more and more working from home. I think this will accelerate this space, but I don't foresee a future where the office, is almost completely discounted. We've seen a lot of announcements from big brands, but I think it's more a matter of the fact that we are at the end social animals. We are, while you manage and while you make sure that your employees are taken care of, there is one important thing, especially nowadays, that is empathy. That is extremely difficult to convey and to use through a digital medium. So I think the trend will continue, but I think that the office space will remain very important. So the physical contact of it will be critical. So this is definitely something that is that it will be changing. Of course, there are moments in which different metrics will come into place. No, I think that if something good we look into this tragedy that we are living, is that we are rethinking a lot of our relationships, relationship with nature and with environment, relationship between countries, and of course the relationship with our employees and the office space must be rethought. No, must be rethink through. So probably metrics like square feet per person will change before and after. Now we are talking about much more square feet per any FTE, and this is one of the major recommendations we have in the handbook, by the way. No, so that metric now during the pandemic, if we want to bring back people safely to work, we will need much more space and less people to work in the same space we had before. But if I look forward positively, this we will one day finish this tragedy, and at that point probably there will be a better use, a rethinking about how we want to use the office. But again, let me highlight the fact that I am a firm believer of management by empathy. We are social animals, so I think the office is here to stay. At least if we discuss about the people that can choose. We discussed a moment ago about the industry that actually cannot choose. No, and for those also there are very relevant recommendations in the handbook. This is what I think, Rishi.
Wonderful, Marco. In fact, I had overheard a few conversations earlier where they said that the color palettes and the color schemes also have impact on mindsets. So actually, people creating offices are going to that level to see, and then you can define the organization. There are definitely high stress jobs, and there are jobs which are more time oriented and outcome oriented. People are thinking to that level on defining color schemes and color palettes on various offices and decisions, so that they all have a calming effect. And there were people talking about reimagining the office where the artifacts are used in a way that the first step somebody takes in the office, he or she sees something which is very positive. Right from artifacts to the wallpapers to the screensavers. I think this detailing, wouldn't have happened, but it's just for a good cause. So I take your thoughts, Marco. The office exists. It is just that ensuring that everybody in a physical office looks at it from a positive frame of mind rather than being nervous about where he or she is. So, and to Rumjhum's point earlier, that there were some sectors where it has to be business as usual. You just cannot make changes over there. But it'll be interesting if over a period of time, when people download the report, we also keep on sharing what new things we are seeing in the future of offices. And I'm sure a lot of learning from a real estate perspective will also come over there. Wonderful. Thank you for sharing this with us, Marco. Anybody, any thoughts anyone else has from a office element perspective? Okay. Okay, Marcos, let me have this conversation with you. And so Paul had initially spoken about something called as the future of work. And I probably needed a little bit more from you first and moving to others then. That one is that there is true consensus that this pandemic is not a fly-by-night operator. So it's not going to take a bus and train and run away immediately. So it's a long-term one. And this situation is also an unexpected catalyst in the so-called future of work in multiple ways. So what should organizations really learn on from the pandemic situation and capitalize on this situation to create winning solutions and prospects to truly define what future of work means? And I know the report is extremely exhaustive to that effect, but your thoughts on creating winning positions for the future of work will be much, much appreciated.
Great. Thanks, Rishi. Of course, when we're thinking about the future of work and what we are learning in this COVID situation, we all think about one of the first ideas about the working from home environment. And that's true. And Marco was, and also Sandeep, and to the extent we were talking about the consequences. But especially in a country like India, that's a little piece of the picture. I mean, number differs with depending on the sources, but we can agree that at least 75 to 80% of the workforce in India were not able to access to work from home policies. And I'm including there self-employed people and casual workers, and I'm including definitely ambits of work, of agriculture, infrastructure. Rumjhum will definitely elaborate on this probably later. Restaurants, you name it. There is a lot of people that were not able to access to work from home. And for these people, the important moment is not the future, the important moment is now, and to create policies that protect their jobs and assures that the environment is healthy. And this handbook is a humble contribution to this. The beauty of it is that this short-term action has enormous consequences for the long term. And we in GI, we observing this with the companies that are ahead in the curve, let me say, on defining and thinking the future of work. They are understanding that the way they behave, the way they treat their workers, the way they create safe environments and protect their jobs is a stepstone on the definition of their culture. Marco was using the word empathic. That's key. They understand that these actions have not an effect only right now, but in the future, because they are defining the culture and the brand for a long time. And the reason is very simple. The people, the workers, they're afraid. They're afraid about their future, their financial stability, their work, their health, the health for the loved ones. So naturally, they turn their eyes to their leaders, to their organizations. The way these organizations, these leaders are treating them, it will make an imprint to them. No matter what we will do in the future, this imprint will stay for many years. And of course, you as a leader, many of the audience will be thinking now, yes, Marcus, that's clear, but we have financial struggles. COVID is hitting us very strongly. Sure, I think to a good extent, everybody is being hit by COVID. But again, the companies that are thinking ahead, they are understanding that this is an investment. So you need to invest for the future. Whatever you do now, it will be marking your culture, it will be marking your brand for a very long time. So you need to balance your financial struggles, let me say, of today, together with a long-term investment in the culture, in the brand. So trying to answer your question, Rishi, is a difficult one, but definitely the impact of this situation to the, let's say, future of work will depend, in organization will depend on many variables. The size of the organization, the area of the segment they are doing, their size, their financial strength. Many things will depend on how the organizations can leverage the opportunities that Sandeep was saying, even taking all the opportunities that this very sad situation is created. But one thing in common for everyone is that the way you manage your teams, the way you manage this crisis, and the way you are, using Marco's word, empathic with your workers, it will make an imprint to your culture, to your brand, that should be the first stone for whatever future of work. And I finish with this. That's the will of this humble contribution that we are doing from the Alliance with this handbook. We are trying to contribute in a humble way to this supporting this vision.
Wonderful, Marcos. In fact, there was a thought which just came to my mind listening to whatever conversations have happened till now, that when you say safely back to work, a lot of organizations are actually also thinking about how to keep their customers safe. So there is one ecosystem which has got dual responsibilities to say, I have to not just keep myself, my employees safe, but my clients. So for example, if you look at the airlines industry, so there is IT, there is pharma, there is infrastructure, there is essential services. But in the aviation industry today, all the airlines have to ensure that the passengers who are traveling are equally psychologically comfortable, and they feel themselves to be safe. So I think from a future of work perspective, as you mentioned, Marcos, and the other leaders when they spoke about, I think that element is also getting integrated in the minds of the people, that our stakeholders are both internal and external. And from the cues in the report, when they try to replicate what can be done for the internal stakeholders, I think a lot of learning will happen on how to ensure that the external stakeholders are also comfortable in dealing with these organizations, and that will also become probably a game changer. But thank you very much for your insights. Richa, let me come to you. Extremely serious issue, and it is really a delight that we all are going to discuss and listen to this from you. It's very seldom, maybe sometimes this got discussed. So we are talking about bringing people back to safety, and times, as I reiterated earlier, nobody has experienced them earlier. So what do you think in terms of the mind of an employee? What are the top of mind issues in the employee's mind? And I've enjoyed my career by walking in corridors and having coffees and doing outbound team building activities. I think it is all unlearned, like Sandeep mentioned, that I have to actually just switch that bit off in my mind, that team building activities were actually group activities. So when these corridor talks have vanished, how do corporates promote team bonding, and how do you create caring conversations for people to still feel the way you used to feel earlier? Richa, your thoughts will be very valuable to us for that.
Thank you, Rishi. I think let me start with saying, right, this is a time of uncertainty, there is a time of ambiguity, there is unpredictability in the environment, and it causes confusion, people are overwhelmed, right? The old coping strategies that we had as an individual, as a family, as a community, and maybe as an organization itself may not be adequate, right? And that's okay, right? These are times that we've never seen before, and we're all learning with it, right? At Yotos, I think we had a privilege to work with organizations with a startup of the size 100 people to the larger organizations of size 3 lakh plus employees, across various sectors, right? Pharma, infrastructure, IT, ITES, etc. And I think looking at the data across, I think if I were to answer your first question, what are the issues that we have seen? I would bucket it into two categories. One would be on the professional side, where I think Sandeep did talk about it in the starting, but I think the expectations of the company from the people in terms of delivery, timelines, everything still remains the same, right? So that creates a lot of pressure, that creates a lot of stress. Saying, how do I'm feeling anxious because of so many things, and I'm still supposed to be that productive, I'm still supposed to be meeting my timelines, etc. Right? Also, I think, like Rumjhum mentioned, and quite a few people also touched on that, like, not everybody's nature of work is where they can actually have a flexible environment, flexible timing. Some people have to go to work, right? And it takes a toll not just on them, but even when they go back on their family, right? So a lot of people also reaching out on support. How do I manage that? Also on the personal front, I think as Indians, we are anyways not so great at having a boundary, right? We don't really switch off from work so easily. So the work-life integration has become a slightly challenge. I think the helps all of us, quite a few people had at home in form of various ways, right? With schools, colleges, there are so many family dynamics, so many different people at home at the same time, and it becomes difficult for people to manage, right? Parenting being a different challenge, getting along with your partners being the challenge, maybe not everybody has that space at home, etc. So I think that are the kind of issues that we have seen more people reaching out for support. And like you beautifully said, I think the natural support system that we had at office through in our corridor talks or tie breaks and all of that is not there anymore, right? And it becomes even more important. And in fact, the first question where you were talking, the previous question where your future of work, you were saying, I think it's even more important. How do we facilitate some of those things in our organization, right? So to promote that protective factors, I actually look at it at 3 levels. I think one is at the individual level. What as an organization you could do to facilitate maybe more resilient people who could bounce back, who could adjust better, who could manage their stress better. I think one of the things that we always say, if we are a pressure cooker on a flame, and the flame is an external environment, and we really don't have that regulator in our lives to control how the flame would be, I think if there's too much of pressure being formed, the pressure cooker could burst. One way to release that pressure is through that whistle, and talking to your friends, family, even therapists is a way to sort of release that pressure. But another way to be able to handle more pressure is to increase the capacity of the pressure cooker, right? Make it from a 5-liter pressure cooker to a 10-liter pressure cooker. And if companies could facilitate that to build more resilient employees, I think that will happen, right? So definitely at an individual level, also at a team level, right? Can we have certain norms in the team? Can we have a wellness champion in the team to be able to facilitate well-being at play, right? And one more, I think, initially Paul also mentioned about at the organization level, right? Leaders need to model that, saying, how do we bring in well-being in the forefront, right? It's not just an agenda of an HR or one well-being champion, rather than agenda of the organization, right? Marco said, how do we bring in that empathetic organization? So I'm definitely, I think more details about it is in the handbook. So I would also encourage everyone to sort of go look at the handbook. See, I'm sure every organization might be at different levels in terms of having their wellness strategies. It would give you some pointers, some checklists, what more could be done to handle it from a 360-degree perspective.
Wonderful, Richa. In fact, I think we had heard a phrase earlier called an empty mind is a devil's workshop. And the pandemic has taught us that it actually, the phrase actually means something. So a lot of people I meet, they say that our challenge is actually to keep busy and to be busy constructively, because the mind can go where sun rays cannot go, and it can go in any direction at any point of time. So if I want to be, if I want to feel that I'm constrained in the North Pole with nobody around me, it will take me 30 seconds. I don't need to fly over there. So controlling the mind, mindfulness, and the emotional resilience is, I believe, extremely critical. And maybe it's time that the organizations also have someone really responsible for it. So like we all have responsibilities of sales, marketing, strategy, operations. Probably mindfulness and mental well-being itself becomes an area of responsibility and outcome. And I'm sure as time progresses, people are really finding more need for it. So thank you very much, Richa. Please keep on sharing your wisdom with the rest of the world as usual. And taking thoughts from you, Rumjhum, looking at the amount of work that you are doing in the infrastructure sector, and that sector had to be as business as usual. So manufacturing and infra is always people intensive, and it needs staff physically on site and facilities, unlike probably services or consulting. So what are the clear distinctions of return to work protocols that are in consideration in like infra sector and say manufacturing a while, that behave very diversely and differently? And your thoughts and guidance on that will be very, very helpful.
Thank you, Rishi. It's not about manufacturing versus infrastructure. Within the infrastructure sector, as we see it, there is huge, shall I say, division in the way that our own workforce has to be deployed. On the one hand, we have white-collar workers, engineers who are doing work out of our offices. And then there is a 50% of our workforce that are there in the project sites. And it's, even during the pandemic, it was business as usual for them, and they had to be mobilized. So we've had to use strategies very differently for the two. While we could tell our engineering staff in the offices saying we're all working from home, these protocols, as many of you are familiar with, would work. On the other hand, we have the others who cannot work from home. They had to be out there, right? And yet, all the things that we talk about frequent sanitization of the workplace, about making sure that you are protected individually. Now, those are people, blue-collar workers, who are not very, shall I say, used to do these kind of protocols. So for them, it was every shift, every 3 or 4 hours, we were having to hold briefings with the team, explain to them that it is now here to stay and these things have to be done personal protection, sanitization, making sure that you're maintaining physical distance even while doing your work, was in the first few weeks of the pandemic very, very challenging. But I must say it was the persistence of our managers out there who were managing these teams who took it upon themselves that we are going to get people used to it. Everyone is new to this new way of working, but we will do this together and we will make sure that we are safe and therefore the teams are safe. But we had a big challenge for those who are there in our project locations because their contact with the public is very, very high. In an office, I can control a work environment. But for those who are out there dealing with the public, actually taking payment for the toll collection at the toll plazas, I have no control on how the other person is going to be protecting themselves. So that's another thing that we had to build in. And as because people were getting used to this, understood the significance of it, what we found after a while was that they were not only taking care of themselves, but when they went back home, they were ensuring that the same protocols were also being imbibed by the family members, which is great. And after a few weeks, we found in some of the project locations that as cars went by the toll plazas and somebody rolled down their window and said, return or something, they said, but why aren't you wearing a mask? So you must be able to educate even those you're coming in contact with. Now that gave us the confidence, saying they have imbibed what it means to be safe, right? And if that's what we can transpose, it will require a lot of education. It will require a lot of, shall I say, understanding and inspiring others to be safe as well. And that's something that we took as learning, saying we will certainly ensure that everyone is a catalyst in that. That's how we can all be much safer.
Absolutely, Rumjhum. I think human life always takes precedence, and your conversation also took me back around 27 years. So my first job was to install computers, and it could not have happened sitting at home. So if there is an organization needing that, I was installing Apple Macintoshes, the baby I still remember as my first job. And while today we have definitions of blue collared and white collared, immediately after my graduation as an engineer, today I still feel it was a more a blue collared one to start with. But human life is life, and really, really very, very thoughtful insights from all of you while we covered the future of work, how to get back to work safely, the handbook, which has all the protocols, the sector specifics, the emotional wellness, mindfulness, and the opportunity for everyone to download and circulate the report from tomorrow onwards. Let me just take one question. One question has been directed to Paul specifically, but it is more generic, so I'm taking it because it encompasses the larger way the industry will operate. So the question says that what happens to the contract hiring or the staffing ecosystem? Is it going to be the new way of hiring and working in India, or something tangentially different is expected to happen in the staffing and contract hiring ecosystem? So probably, Paul, you can take this one, and everybody else can pitch in.
Sure, thank you. It's a good question, and certainly all four of the members of the Alliance have a vested interest in this. Alone, I think all of us together combined probably put several 100,000 contractors, temporary workers to work every day across the four corners of India. One thing that I have clearly observed over the past few months is that companies are rethinking their workforce planning and their workforce strategy. And many companies, particularly traditional companies in India, were quite heavy on core full-time employees and had a very small piece of the pie that were contractors and temporary workers. What we're seeing is companies showing an interest in increasing the percentage of temporary and contractual workers. We're even seeing more interest in gig. In the gig economy, we talked about a lot, but the gig is really in a way a freelancer who can work from anywhere to accomplish a task and add value. if I put on my ISF, India Staffing Federation Executive Board member hat for a moment, as the ISF combine our members alone, we put close to 1 million people to work every day. Think about that, temporary contractual workers. That's a rising part of the economy, and part of our mission is to bring the people from the informal workforce into the formal workforce. I think this crisis is going to be the impetus. We're already seeing the momentum towards embracing temporary labor, contractual labor, and even gig work in India. So to answer the question, there's already an increase in needs for companies out there, and for those who are representing organizations. It also allows you to be more nimble and be more agile when you prepare and you future-proof your organization. If any of the other leaders would like to comment on what your thoughts are on temporary work in India.
Yeah, Paul and Rishi, I think it's definitely I don't see a trend decreasing from here. You know, what we have experienced also in the West, you know, is that the moment there was a crisis, the moment is difficult and uncertain to forecast the demand 1 week ahead, a month ahead, you know, and so the more uncertainty there is in the economy, the more, you know, companies, clients, you know, wants to make sure to flexibilize their cost as much as possible and use, you know, outsourcing and contract work in a way that that can help them, you know, go through these phases and these cycles. So I'm definitely with Paul on this one. We'll see a demand rising. We are seeing more people requesting, even if they have never done it before. You know, they want to at least understand, explore. You know, and in terms of hiring, if I understood also correct, in terms of hiring, I think anybody of us can say what we see, of course, is that the acceleration of you know, assessments done online, the fact that you are able to you know, start from the step one of the recruitment to the onboarding, to be able to doing it digitally. This also will make sure and make sure that companies and the private sector understands that this that the economy can keep on going despite despite what is happening. Yeah.
Yeah, and just to add, Rishi, you know, it was maturing. To Paul's point, the industry was maturing and accepting this as a very viable alternate. What this situation has done, it's accelerated the whole process. You know, we are location agnostic. We are going to be engaging outcome based. Gone are those, you know, those, you know, step driven kind of engagement where I'm just going to ask you to do certain steps and I'll get the output. So it's more outcome based, it's more location agnostic, and there is maturity that's come in. So I think it's really helped the overall cause, and I see this moving up from here and actually move up the value chain. You know, it's not just going to be a volume play, it's going to be a qualitative play too.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. I have a few questions which are more about inquisitiveness of the audience on what's in the report. So I think I will just urge the audience to wait for a day, download it from the respective sites, and you'll see you know, how much amount of research and differentiated work has gone into it. And just you know, we are pretty close to the closing time of the webinar, and audiences have been extremely friendly and patient. Thank you for that. So let me start with you, Rumjhum. Your last 30 seconds trailblazer, as you know, a closing remark or an advice which you want to leave the audience with.
I think we are talking about you know, relooking at the way that we work, how we work, etc. And I think the one thing that comes to mind in the circumstances that we are in is saying that gone are the days of IQ, EQ, then became SQ. Today I heard Sandeep talk about HQ. I'd like to say that leadership should also develop a facet called adversity quotient. So AQ is going to be something that is going to be very, very important for us going forward.
Well noted, Rumjhum. Richa, one thing which you want to leave the audience with as a parting thought?
I think for individuals who are working, for leaders who are listening, I want everyone to acknowledge and remember we are humans. Humans are vulnerable. These are unprecedented times. We have not seen it before. You might go through ups and downs in our life, and it's completely okay to go out and seek support and talk about it.
Wonderful. That is life, the way we look at it. Fair enough. Marcos, one thing you would want to leave with the audience?
Sure. Thanks, Rishi. I think we all share the idea that this COVID situation is far from over until a solution in form of a vaccine or a successful treatment is discovered. So for companies to come back to work, for companies to continue their operations and provide work to the people, they need to create a safe environment that assures the security of the workforce, and at the same time reduce their fear from this workforce to get infected in their job place. So this is a time my colleagues mentioned several times. I think everybody's right when they say that this is a time to make a difference. This is a very decisive moment in history. And from this alliance, we are willing to contribute to our best extent to your success with this handbook that we are presenting today. So please utilize it as a tool to improve the safety of your organization and as a foundation step for a better future. So thank you all.
Thank you very much. Marco, over to you for your last remarks.
Yeah, I know. I just wanted to say to tell to the audience that it's been a strong effort. We are very proud of what we were able to come up with. It's something that that doesn't live on its own. So our strong suggestions and hope is for as many people as possible to download it. Again, it's free. It's just put there in order for everybody to be able to use it and to spread it as much as possible. And also we can look at it in a way to, in some sort of way help communities, help the entire India go back safely to work. So I think it's something that that we are very proud of. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Marco. Sandeep, over to you.
Okay. Human race, history says we've always come out stronger. And that's exactly what's going to happen in this scenario. Again, like everybody said, leverage this report. It's our way of kind of acknowledging and giving back to the industry. It's got some very valuable and tailor-made inputs. So make the best of it and stay healthy and stay safe.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Over to you, Paul, for your last closing conversation.
Thank you, Rishi. Well, I'm reminded of two guiding principles that I have. One is that crisis brings opportunity. We've all discovered that. The fact that we're all here together is actually because of this crisis. There's 3 R's. We all know them, right? Respond, recover, and reimagine. I think we're right in that recover and reimagine phase right now. And this handbook is going to help all of us get through these stages as we reimagine the future work. And the second mantra that guides me, well, I learned it from my parents many years ago in Canada, is this too shall pass. We're going to get through this together. We hope that the handbook becomes a resource that will serve you all well as we live and breathe that notion of this too shall pass. Thank you.
So, in fact, I have seen a lot of WhatsApp status of people saying this too shall pass. So they are actually making everybody, they read it themselves and they make others realize that this too shall pass. So thank you very much, eminent leaders, for exchanging your views and thoughts. And for the benefit of the audience, the screen is up in terms of from where can they download the report tomorrow. The intent was to ensure we discuss how millions of working professionals can be safe, secure, and productive. The report reaffirms that this is a blueprint of health and safety protocols, emotional well-being, the risks, potential risks, and how to mitigate them, and examples of implementing a safely back to work action plan, which includes remodeling of workspaces, touch-free interfaces, business processes, emotional well-being, and adaptations, so that the processes can become ownerships within organizations and keep each and every human, internal or external stakeholder across sectors safe and in congenial working conditions. My privilege on the speaking panel, the audience, the organizers, stay safe, stay blessed, and we hope to stay in touch for time to come. Thank you very much for your time. God bless.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Rishi.
Goodbye. Take care.
Thank you.